welcome to this Monday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice, and my co-host,
Simone Cherie.
All right, so today's show, so everybody that knows me, y'all know that love is not my thing. I do not proclaim to be a love person by any stretch of the wild imagination, which is probably why I am single. Yeah, shameless plug. So today, this gentleman, I had the luxury of sitting with him on the show, on the Rashad Ritchie show about a month or two ago. He was actually scheduled for the show and something happened, so I had to reschedule him. But after sitting with him, I was like, I've got to make sure that I get this young man on the show. So he is here today, none other than the amazing, I'm upgrading him, the love guru, Mr. Byron Jamal. Tell everybody about yourself, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ricardo, for having me on. I'm glad to be on with you and Simone. Good to meet you. And yes, Ricardo, it was great meeting you. As a love coach, really all I help people do is find extraordinary love. So in any way that happens, whether they're single, in a relationship, or coming out of love through divorce.
All right, so tell everybody about your background. What made you want to do this? How did you get into it? All that good stuff.
Absolutely. I am actually a former pastor, and in that time, I was able to coach and counsel a lot of people. I realized that the bulk of everything that we really find that is fulfilling in life starts with relationships. And as a pastor, I wasn't able to really dive in deep with people because there were a lot of religious hindrances, things that you couldn't talk about, things that were too taboo for the sanctity of the church. And so now I'm free to really help people dive into whatever they need to talk about to get their healing.
Okay, all right. So let's start where we are now. So the reason, and I was telling someone this before we came on, the reason I want to do this show is because, COVID has really forced a lot of us, and I say a lot of us, to really look at where we stand as far as building personal relationships, the balance we may or may not have had previously before we were forced to stay home. So now that a lot of us are home, executives, entrepreneurs, the hustle and the grind keeps us going day after day after day. And a lot of times we don't prioritize love because it's just like, okay, well, I'm trying to build something. So whenever I get time, I'll find a mate. And I think this kind of stopped us in our tracks and was like, yeah, you see how much more nicer this would have been if you'd actually had somebody to share this downtime with for almost a month. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, this is something we really should talk about, which is finding that balance between being an entrepreneur, an executive, a business owner, and actually maintaining a significant other or finding that balance. So let's start with Simone. Let us know where we stand with coronavirus and the stay-at-home orders and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the state of Georgia, that's where we've been following it the most closely, and that's what impacts all of us here. So as of right now, there are 29,100 confirmed cases in the state of Georgia, 1,268 ICU admissions, and overall 5,400 hospitalizations. 200,000 tests have been given out, close to 200,000 tests. So it's not a huge percentage of Georgia's population, unfortunately, but there's also been 1,204 deaths. So, if you consider the number of people who have ultimately died from COVID after they were already confirmed, it's probably like 3 or 4%, which has kind of been in line with what's going on nationally. But we have reopened, despite all the controversy around reopening, Georgia has, begun that process and is going through those phases. And our governor has been very active on lots of different channels, talking about why he's reopened and, the data that he's used and also just trying to emphasize that it's voluntary. So again, I know plenty of businesses that are not opening and will not open. Our local gym is not open and doesn't plan to open anytime soon, things like that. You kind of use your better judgment, especially if you have a family or if you know that you're in a vulnerable spot for any reason, if you've got underlying medical conditions, if you are over the age of 60, they say, but really 50 is something you might want to consider as well. Just be careful. There's still social distancing in place. And if you go to any local grocery store, I'm pretty sure that you'll still see that there's those markers and signs to kind of keep everyone, keep everyone separate and keep everyone safely distant. So.
Yeah, I think everybody was kind of, the world didn't end when we started opening back up. So I think everybody's kind of like, I was actually gone the weekend, so I wasn't around for any of it. I was luxuriating on a beach at an undisclosed location. So it was at an undisclosed location. So it was kind of nice. All right. So Byron, tell us about where people should start. Like where should we start with all this? If COVID has taught me that I really, as an executive or an entrepreneur, really should put the effort into finding a significant other, where would I start? What should my mindset be? All that good stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question because it does start with you. Everything that is surrounding your life really is about you. Whatever you see in your life is because of you. We can use a lot of excuses. So let me start there. Get away from excuses. So any excuses that you have about why you're single, what has been impacting your singleness, get rid of all of those because really it's you. It is your mentality because you know that anybody who really wants to do something can make it happen, right? Like you can really make something even on right now. All these shows that are on right now on Instagram and Facebook are because people said, I'm gonna find another way to make this happen. So excuses are probably the biggest killer of finding love because people make excuses about being too busy or that there aren't enough good people. I love that one, by the way, because people say there's nobody good out there. Well, you're out there. So are you talking about yourself? You know, there's nobody.
I'm guilty of that one. I'm guilty of that one, so I can't say anything.
Already are hurting yourself because you're talking about yourself. So excuses are a big killer. Next, it's recognizing your limitations when it comes to technology and connectivity. Like, truth be told, a lot of people don't use social media. We think they do, but a lot of good people are out there who honestly don't connect online at all. And a lot of people aren't willing to get on social media apps. So a willingness to connect online and to find online sources to meet people actually just opens you up to more options. And what you need to find love is options, because if you aren't looking for love, you can't find love.
Okay, so explain that. Explain that because I've heard that saying before, what you just said. Explain that. What exactly does that mean?
Well, that if you're not looking for love, you can't find it. It's really rare. A lot of people are looking for these amazing love stories of bumping into somebody at the grocery store. But those are so far and few in between. Those are so rare. Those are off of the movies. Every time you really think of those stories, those are from the movies, and those are very rare to find in real life. Yes, you can meet somebody in produce, but I don't want you stalking the tomatoes to find your date, okay? It is easier.
Okay, so there goes my desire. Just went out the window just that fast when you saying that. I mean, I secretly am a hopeless romantic, so you just shattered all of that. So I won't be looking down the grocery aisle. No more produce.
Let me help you with that hopeless romantic side and save your budget, because you're probably spending over $100 each week just trying to go to the grocery store. Picking up things you don't
Walmart.
The truth is, you can not only save money by dating online, but you're trying to have this grand story of how you met. Goodness. First of all, people don't want to hear your story. They're not that interested.
That's true.
I mean, let's be honest. When somebody starts talking about, well, I met so-and-so. Like, think about your parents or grandparents, and they tell a story. I met your mama at church, and you're just like, oh God, here we go. Here we go again. Right? Nobody wants to hear your love story. What they want to know is that you're happy, that it's healthy, and that you're wanting to maintain it. That's all people really want to know. And that should be the main priority for you. It shouldn't be creating this amazing love story. It should be that the love is amazing. So find the love, go after it, seek it wherever you can find it. You can find it on a retreat, if you can find it at the grocery store, if you can find it at the laundromat, if you can find it in traffic and you rear end somebody. Please don't rear end anybody. But if you happen to rear end somebody,
don't have to put a disclaimer on this. Do I need to get Simone to say disclaimer that we have rear-ending somebody?
Yeah. Opinions expressed do not represent the Leadership Line Media Company or any of its affiliates, and are not responsible for any advice taken from the program. But I wanted to ask you as well, Byron, because that when I think about people not looking for it, one of my biggest things is getting online and maybe getting comfortable with something you're uncomfortable with. Like, what about all the apps that they pop up with every day? I was just talking to Ricardo about this because I'm an extrovert and I get energy from other people. And I was feeling like, you know what, I need more people to talk to, and I could really use some more friends, like actual, just friends.
Yes.
And I found this great app that lets me just talk to strangers whenever I want to. It just throws me in conversations with total strangers. Stop shaking your head, Ricardo. I love it. It's been an awesome experience. And
I am not an advocate of this app. I just want to say I'm not an advocate of this app.
I'm not an advocate of it for children, but for children.
Good point.
But assuming you're an adult, I mean, I really enjoy it. So maybe some people do need to at least test the waters before they say like no. Some people say no online dating before they try online dating.
So, you know, I'm a little blunt and I'm a little bold. I guess it comes from being a pastor. You just get tired of saying the same things over and over again. So let me be blunt with you, Ricardo and Simone. Truth is, it's so hypocritical when people say they don't want to meet new people. They struggle with meeting new people. Literally from childhood, we tell our children, go in the playpen and go meet somebody. Like we say that from day one. We tell kids, go play with the other kids. Go be nice. You know, that's something that we instill because we know that relationships are crucial to our happiness. Like we know that. And so to say that you don't want to meet anybody new, but you want somebody new is like the most backwards thing to say in life. It's like I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat. You know, like I'm thirsty, but I don't eat. I don't drink water. You know, like, I really struggle with that. So Ricardo, I'm helping you right now. Let's wash that away, okay? You like meeting new people. We met because we're new people. We met as new people. You met Simone eventually because she was new people. New people are paramount to success in anything, business, life, and our love lives. So it is crucial that we meet new people. You want to. It is absolutely paramount that you do. What is the truth, though? Let me help get your words to match your mind, because this is actually what it is. You are anxious about meeting new people in new forms. That is probably more of the truth. Would you agree with that, Ricardo?
I don't know how we got on me specifically, but I don't know how we got on me specifically. Let me clarify. Yeah, what y'all not about to do is put me on blast on Facebook. So I don't have a problem with meeting new people for like business, networking. I'm cool with that. My personal space is a whole nother issue. But that's a good way for us to segue. So that would be my question to you is with social dating, I'm 40. So I know I look young, but I'm old. And, trying to be, and I'll say people from my age group and up, which is probably Generation X, Generation Y, how do we navigate a world of social media dating when we're accustomed to face-to-face interactions? Because that's how we were raised. Handshake, hugs, all this good stuff is the epitome of our generation. So how do we transition or translate that into social dating? And like Simone says, every day they come up with a new dating app. Like, how am I supposed to be able to navigate, this, especially those that desire to interact with younger individuals, from millennials to, the other generations? How do we translate that to social dating online?
Yes. It's interesting. We talk about history repeating itself, and that is so true. Because what did we do before Facebook and before Instagram and before, I remember phone chat lines, that was right around, right? And then it went to messenger lines, a little chat group that you could get in and type. And Black Planet came up, and we were all on there. The easiest way to answer your question is to do what you've been doing, which is to adapt. It is to get on, try it, fail, work it out, get used to it, and then it becomes a normalcy to you. The reality is that when Black Planet came out, we didn't jump on everything that came out along with Black Planet. We chose one. When AOL came out, there were other ones that came out at the same time. We didn't jump on all of them. We picked one. Pick something that works. I will say, this is something that I coach real heavy, is that the approach matters more than the app. And that how you approach something and how you what you believe about it, what you feel like you can get from it, your mentality about it is going to be more productive than the actual app itself. Because you can literally get a carrier pigeon and use carrier pigeons if you believe that that will be an effective way for you to find love, because somebody has at some point in history. The truth of the matter is, if you get your mind to match what you want, if the two can meet and say, this is the tool I'm going to use, and I believe in the tool I'm using. Those are two fundamentally different things. But if you can align them, then you have a better chance at actually getting what you want.
It's so profound. I feel like I just learned something in that split second. Okay, so let's tap into your pastor background. How much weight does it carry for individuals who have experienced not so great love experience in their past? And a lot of times we tell folks, get beyond your past, because if you don't love yourself, you can't be able to love anybody else. How do you view all those things, those little sayings, those little cliches that we use so often?
Yeah, I used to be the quote master, and I still put out a lot of quotes. I think quotes are helpful to stick in people's minds, but I've shifted more to affirmations. I believe in affirmations, and the reason why is because they are truths. They are truths that you speak into yourself. A quote can be something that you read, but you still keep external. An affirmation is something you speak into your being to adapt and to soak it into who you are and how you live. So instead of just saying, love is something that you'll find if you go look for it, I believe in saying love is something I will find when I look for it. As I look for it, I will find more love. That is, again, a fundamental shift in thinking, because now it speaks into you a truth that can manifest. It's like a seed versus something that you just think about and see external of you. So that is something I believe. Now, when it comes to applying the things that people say, it is important that you actually utilize your own energy to say, I can't. Because if you don't believe it, like if you read a quote, let me use this. This is a good one. If I told you right now that more people are finding love than ever before, your first instinct is somebody who is skeptical about love and has been hurt in your past and has experienced bad dates in it, and you already admitted that you've said things like, there's no good people out there, right? If you already have
Again, we're not talking about me.
Or generally
we're
speaking.
not talking about me, people. We're not talking about me.
Generally speaking.
That's tomorrow. I got you. Don't worry. It is it is true. If all these things are working in your mind and you hear that, then you're gonna brush it off. And by brushing it off, the truth of it is it's like a seed. The truth of it, the truth of the seed being a tree, never is realized in your life because it's not planted. And so a quote is like a seed that's not planted. An affirmation is the planting of the seed to allow it to grow. And so that's why I've shifted more to affirmational truths than just quotes.
So the affirmation is something that because I have friends that do this. I don't do it, but I keep saying I should, but I have friends do this. So they have like the little sticky notes on their mirrors. They get up every day and they say these things. So is that what you're talking about? Those kind of affirmations that you say daily?
Yes, it is. It is an affirmation, and it's very pivotal because you can just say words. Like people say, "I love you" all the time. That doesn't mean they love somebody. So you can speak words, but you have to speak them and believe them. The power is in the belief, and the belief is energy that you're putting out into the universe. And it is the law of attraction at work that by believing in something strong enough, you manifest it back into your life.
I can't believe I'm hearing this, that you are an entrepreneur with so much going on and you don't do affirmations, Ricardo. I cannot believe you don't do affirmations. I really can't. I'm like stunned.
Me too.
Again, I don't know how we keep coming back to me.
You said
I don't know how we keep coming back to me. Okay, so here's the thing on affirmations for me. I am a visual visionary. So something is shown to me and I just execute. To me, my I guess, well, it's not really affirmation. My tagline for myself is the mission is what's important. So whatever that mission happens to be, that has to be executed. So, I get the affirmation thing, but I kind of know when I set my mind on it, I kind of know what needs to be done. So I kind of just do it. Now in this love department, I may have to do some affirmations, but I have been fortunate to have two really good relationships. So I kind of know what love looks like and feels like. I'm just not willing to settle in this place because, my life looks a lot different now than it did 10 years ago. So what I desire now isn't the same thing I desired 10 years ago. So, but for me, as everybody knows what I do, my hands are really full. We're going to get off me because I don't know how we keep getting on me. But we're going to shift where we're supposed to be, which is, so let's shift to entrepreneurs and small business owners, executives, all that stuff. Those of us who are really, really busy. Should we schedule in, time to be on social media? Should we schedule in speed dating type thing? How should we make space in our life to, permeate this love, resignation that goes out into the world and say, hey, we want to be loved? How should we do that?
That's a great question. I think a lot of people who are busy, like all of us on this particular conference call, we're all busy in different ways. And let me say that again. We're all busy in different ways. You can be busy watching Netflix. So let's clarify that entrepreneurs are especially busy because they're busy doing things that if they stopped it, it may stop their business. So that's uniquely challenging because you're not just busy watching a movie you can pause and come back to. You're busy that if you stop this, it may stop your income. That is different. And so to enforce moving forward in a stronger way of love and incorporating love into the conversation and into the fabric of what you're doing in your life, you have to consider that love now is something that if you stop incorporating it into your day, it will stop creating positive income in your life. That's how I look at it. When I coach somebody, I say, all right, if you stop working today, you won't have money, right? That's fundamental. If you stop investing time in finding love, you won't have love. Like, think about that. If you go work out and you're working out and then you stop working out, you stop investing time in working out, you will see decreases in your gains. Love is like a workout. If you're not increasing, then you are decreasing. There is no plateauing. It is something that seesaws, and if you don't add the right balance of weight on one side, it will shift back to the other side. So to do that, you just must do it. It's the same thing if I was a fitness coach. I would tell you, you have to make time. You have to incorporate the time into your life and into your day. You have to say each day, I'm going to get up, and today I'm going to spend 30 minutes posting on whatever app I chose. I'm going to go for 10 minutes. I'm going to review new profiles. For 10 minutes, I'm going to assess my own profile and make sure that it's up to date and saying the things I wanted to say. And then for 10 minutes, I'm going to reply to messages on here. That's my 30 minutes each day. And each day you chip away at the insecurities, and you chip away at the I can'ts, and you chip away at the excuses. And you start finding that you're building relationships. You're getting in the habit of strengthening that love muscle. And in doing so, it's easier to talk to people. It's easier to engage new people. And it's easier to find love faster.
All right, so let me play devil's advocate because, I love love most days. So, but using those same examples that you use, if you set a fitness goal and you consistently go to the gym, you immediately start seeing the returns. I mean, it may take a little while, but you will see a little muscle pop up here or muscle pop there. But love is different though. So what rubric would you use to say that my efforts are yielding some kind of return? What does that return look like outside of a relationship? If I invest as an entrepreneur, if I invest my time into doing what you're saying doing, what kind of return should I be looking for? Because with the fitness example, I can see a couple of muscles sprouting up. I may feel better, I may have more energy, but how does that look with love if I put that kind of time in it? If there's a rubric at all.
Yes, that is really good. I have quite a few friends because I work in the love space. Fitness is very much so tied to that, as well as nutrition. So I do have a lot of cohorts that do that kind of work. And what they would tell a client is the same thing I would. It would be, baby love, you may not see the results because you don't know how to track the metrics. So you get somebody who's in fitness, they will literally have you tracking out how long you were able to run, how much weight you were able to lift over a certain amount of reps, things of that nature. They were able to track that. So for that first week or two, you may not have lost a pound, but you may notice, they may notice, because they're tracking metrics, that you are actually lifting more, that you actually have more stamina, that your breathing is better. There's things that they notice, and normally they are things that are conditioning you before you see improvement external of you. Before you see something in the mirror, you actually are changing internally. So what I do is I help people track the metrics so that you can see the change inside yourself. Wow, I'm becoming more patient. Wow, I'm opening my heart more. Wow, I'm becoming more vulnerable. Wow, I am becoming more sensitive to other people's needs and being more sensitive to how people are feeling external of me. Those are metrics that you may not track. And so it's important to have a love coach or somebody, therapist, or somebody who will help you walk through that. In my new course, Love at First Swipe, How to Find Love Faster, Better, I actually have a metric tool in that. So what you do is you first go back. And this is the same thing a fitness coach would do. They would have you go back and they would say, well, what were some things that you've done before? What were some of your weights before? How are you living your life prior to meeting me today? They would have you go in your past and assess. So I have you assess previous relationships. I say, okay, what were some key factors? How did you feel in them? What were some key things that you loved? Some key things that you didn't like? Who were you at that time? Things that you can track. So now, when you go into meeting somebody, who are you attracting? Is that better? Is that worse? Who do you keep attracting? So now maybe you need to update your profile because you keep attracting this type based on the keywords that you're using. And in doing that, you're starting to see, I'm attracting better. It's getting better. I'm seeing better people. I'm attracting better people. The people I like are now coming my way. And that's not something you can see overnight. It's something that you have to have a metric tool to short answer your question. A metric tool helps you do that.
That's a really interesting way to put it. Another thing I was going to say about that is when you mentioned faster, my first thought was, well, maybe there's things that you want to find and produce, right? But then there's also things you want to avoid. Same thing maybe with something like fitness. Like maybe you feel like, okay, well, I'm not making any progression, but maybe there are bad things that you're avoiding, like, well, I have less pain or I have less fatigue during the day. So I'm also thinking about the fact that I know I've heard a lot of my friends say things like, they've wasted time with people that there's red flags that other people seem to see that they didn't see, or there's just like very almost clear evidence that this is not a good person for you. Maybe this person is a devout Muslim and there's no way that would ever be you, right? So it's like, maybe it's also a question of like, well, I'm avoiding making some of the more obvious, I'm avoiding wasting my time. I'm avoiding even, donating myself to people that I know for whatever reason would never work with.
That's a key point. So glad you said that out loud, because a lot of people don't realize, this is why I teach, date more. If you don't do anything else, date more. When people come to me and they're impressed by, oh, I only dated 2 people, I'm like, that sounds good because in society, not having dated a lot of people sounds like you haven't been out there hoeing around, right? That's the impression. It's like, if I dated a lot, I must have been hoeing around and doing things. But that's not it. Okay, so in business, to all of my entrepreneurs and business people, if you had a business coach, they would tell you, go on more job interviews. Even if you had a job, go on a job interview to keep you fresh, right? They would tell you to go on them to practice, because when the right job comes along, you want to make sure that you are ready, that you know how to respond, that you know how to live, that you know how to present yourself in a polished and pristine way. You are so confident that you exude different energy when you have gone on more job interviews than when you've only gone on one or two or three. So
that is my core belief. That is just my core beliefs. You just bottled up right there. Like if before I was married, if somebody said something like, well, I haven't dated very much, or I've only had like one, I wanted nothing to do with that. I would prefer that you have been everywhere and back, because then I feel you're more sure by the time we're having a conversation. You know, I've said that to women as well all the time too, is that you don't want to be in a prime position with a great potential person and have all of these little hangups that you really could have handled, you know, a while ago. But that's, I mean, I think different people grow up differently. I think some people are maybe very sheltered, and some people are late bloomers, you know, they date a little bit later. You know, I found that can be a situation where somebody could be in their late 20s or late 30s, sometimes dealing with things that, you know, if you were, you know, me, or if you were someone else, they're like, oh, I went through that in high school, you know. but it's harder because by then the people that you're dating have way more experience than you. So I mean, I could imagine that being a challenge for sure.
There is a stigma attached, and that's really what that is. It's a stigma. Like if you're a church kid, then mama wouldn't let you date too much, and so you end up having that one girl or that one boy that you were able to talk to. And even if you were interested in multiple people, they wouldn't let you explore that because it was bad, you know, and you were bad. I use this example. I love this example. When I'm a beach kid, I love the beach. When I went to Norfolk State, Virginia Beach is right down the street, so we would go to the beach all the time. Now, mind you, I had never been to the mountains. So when someone said, come to the mountains, I was thinking, oh, I don't want to do that. I love the beach, right? So take me to the beach. I don't want the mountains. Then I went on a mountain trip. Somebody convinced me. And I sat that first day and I said, oh my God, I really love the mountains, right? Like I love the mountains. I would come to the mountains anytime. And it got so good that I was starting to say, let's go back to the mountains. Like I'm willing to go, let's plan something else. There are a lot of people who are living in their love lives thinking they only love the beach. And they never open themselves up to the diverse experience of the mountains. And I use that because you don't feel bad about somebody judging the mountains versus the beach. But now say, well, I only talk to business people who have 4 degrees and make over $100,000. But then you just cut off the entrepreneur who doesn't have 1 degree, but is building a business that one day would be multi-million dollars, because you have closed yourself off to the possibility of the mountains. People need to date more to know what they like and what they don't like. You mentioned religion. There are Christians right now who I know are in healthy relationships with people who are of other religions because they realized it wasn't a deal breaker. They were able to connect on fundamental truths of religious differences. They were able to say there is a fundamental element of love, respect, of respecting family, of honoring marriage. There were key things they were able to rest their religion on beyond the faith leaders of Jesus or Muhammad. They were able to say, I can connect with you because what I really want is a healthy relationship. And it's not about having a convert next to me. And for other people, they said, I absolutely need that. So it is finding out if you can really only live on the beach, or if you are bi-coastal, bi-regional, you might have more capacity to love beyond what you're accustomed to.
All right, so actually that's perfect because on Facebook Live, one of my friends, she recently relocated to Japan, young African-American female who's about to be a doctor. Shouts out to Ashley Dash, a friend of the show. Hey, she's about to be Dr. Ashley Dash. So she was asking the question, how do you date internationally? Because like I said, she's been in Japan now for about a year. So what advice would you give her being, you know, in Japan and you know, figuring out how to date and all that good stuff? What would be the advice?
I love Ashley for even being willing to go overseas and to try something different. That is beautiful. I think every new experience is the best thing you could ever do in your life. I actually lived in Germany for a year on a foreign exchange program, and it was the best thing for me because it opened my mind to realize I am not unilateral. I am not one-dimensional. And for Ashley, I want you to remember that and say that if that's nothing but an affirmation for your own life. You are not one-dimensional. You have many sides. You are not just an African-American stuck in whatever city you are in. You can fit anywhere. And as a seed that can grow anywhere, I want to tell Ashley that it could be your culture keeping you from love. Actually, I tell this to anybody. Sometimes you got to move to find love. Sometimes love is holding you back where you are. It could be America, it could be Japan, but you got to sometimes break out of the mold that you're in, the routine, the rut, the habits that you have, and allow yourself to just try. And in Japan, I think that's the best place to potentially find new love. My brother went to Germany, a black man who is a Muslim, went to Germany because of the military. And in that, he met a German woman, white woman, black man, meaning a white woman who definitely had no religious preference, and he's a Muslim. So a lot of differences there, but he found love because they were able to connect in a way that was different than either of them had expected originally. Just open yourself, Ashley, open your heart, open your mind, and open yourself to the potential that love can come in a form that you didn't expect. Remember, Jesus is the epitome of God for all the Christians, the epitome of God walking in flesh. It was a form that we did not expect. He came in a lowly manger, right? Okay, we go into the whole Bible story. He came in a way and he left in a way that we didn't expect. But in all forms, it was a form of love that we needed and we didn't even know we did. So go with that in your mind.
All right. So I'm going to ask that question that every person really does not want to get into. How important is vulnerability in finding love? And when, especially, and I'll keep it in the confines of what we're talking about, as it pertains to entrepreneurs and small business owner executives, how do I know when is the right time to be vulnerable versus, like you said, if I tip over too far to the left, my whole business can go under.
Right.
So how do I know when I should be vulnerable enough to really get vested into something that I've been working towards, be it a relationship, a dating that seems to have taken a new form? How do I know when is a good time to be vulnerable?
So I was on with, thank you for that question, because these are like the best questions ever that we're asking today. They are right.
Welcome to the Leadership Blitz, sir.
I know, right? I'm loving it. Like these are the questions that people need to ask. So I was always Reese Odom. She's an actress on Vampire Diaries and Ambition. She's doing her thing, rising through the ranks here in Atlanta and like making a name for herself. Successful woman in her own right. And when I did what I kind of started doing with you, Ricardo. I started doing love coaching session. I was supposed to be interviewing, but I did that with her. And here's what I said, there's the Reese Odom that she knows that people should love her for because she's Reese Odom, right? You are Reese Odom. You are the Reese Odom. If it was Tyler Perry, it'd be like, you are Tyler Perry. Why wouldn't somebody love you? You're Tyler Perry. But then there's the other side. It's like, but I'm Reese Odom. And maybe the only reason you're trying to talk to me is because I'm Reese Odom. So you have the CEO or the entrepreneur who's building something, and the question would be, of course you love me. I'm goal-driven. I look good. I'm building a business. I have so many positive attributes that you could see. Of course you should attach to me, but the duality of that is maybe you're only attaching to me for that reason. And that is what people struggle with when it comes to vulnerability. It's that I want to open myself up because I know I'm a good person and I know I have great things to give. I have great things I want to receive. But I also don't want to be manipulated. I don't want to be used. I don't want to be taken for granted. I don't want to be hurt because people just want to attach to me for all the wrong reasons. And so to that person, I'll tell you what I told her. I would say that, remember, how do you fill a bucket with a lid on it?
You can't.
You can't. Right, okay. So the only way to fill the bucket is to experience what it means to be open and vulnerable enough to allow it to be filled. Sometimes you can't control what comes in, right? Sometimes you can't control if some contaminant infects the purity of the water that's also going in. But guess what? Water's still going in. And there's enough of it that it will dilute whatever is polluting the system of your heart. There should be enough love flowing in that if you're open, yes, you can't control that some things, just like you go to church and there's a lot of positive things there, but for all my people who've been to church, there's some stuff going on there.
There's some crap in there.
There's some crap in there. But you don't stop just going to church because of the pollution, right? You don't throw away government just because there's some things that we don't like about government. There are things that you have to accept. And America is an open nation. We open borders, but we also have ways of selecting how people come in. It is both and. You have to be vulnerable enough to be open and yet still have standards and boundaries and barriers. There's a duality that allows you to filter, just like my Brita that's in the kitchen. It's a filter that it doesn't stop the flow of water coming in, but I've matured enough that I'm able to filter out a lot of the contaminants. But you don't gain that maturity without some experience. And so sometimes you have to go through a heartbreak. You have to go through a painful situation. You have to go through a betrayal. Sometimes, if you haven't listened to someone else's story enough to learn it on your own, you have to go through it yourself. And so I say, be open to the experiences of life and allow those experiences to develop the gravitas that gives you the ability to filter out what you need and what you don't need in your life.
See, the bucket analogy makes me think of something that I feel a lot of people struggle with, and they may not know it, and it's probably very hard for them to admit, which is that when people are dating, well, at least I've heard it said this way, when people are dating, they're usually looking for someone who will make them something, make them happy, keep them occupied. Oh, it's the end of the year, it's holiday time, it'd be great if I had someone at this particular moment, or it's New Year's, it'd be really great if I had a date for this. There's all these pluses, right? And it's usually very like, reciprocity driven. I'm not going to call, this person hasn't called. How much did they spend on my Valentine's Day gift? Well, how much should I be spending? And it's like marriage is so different than that. And it's not a question of what am I getting? It's giving. What am I giving? And I feel like to a certain extent, I think sometimes we're not always honest about if we're single and if we're just kind of dating, or if maybe we're starting to prioritize relationships just a little bit. We're not willing to really, how do people kind of gauge their own emotional maturity, basically? How can people be more honest with themselves about like, look, maybe the truth is I would like more company. Maybe the truth is I would like more consistent sex, or sex I feel better about. But to be honest, I really don't want to deal with somebody else's crap, or I really don't want to meet their family. I really don't want to invest in them. I really am just how can we be more honest?
That is brilliant. And I'm glad you said it that way. I always look at the bucket. We talk about what's going in the bucket, like you said, like the things you're receiving. But remember, the bucket is used for something. There's a purpose that the bucket is used for. Like the water that's going in is necessary for the bucket to be essential, but the bucket is now going to serve a purpose. There's a reason why that water needs to go in, so that it can actually go serve someone else. And that's why we need love in our lives. But also remember this. This is so key. Singleness is a phase of love. And I'll talk about there are 6 phases in my new book coming out soon. This phase, singleness, is all about selfishness. Understand, when you're single, this is the only time in every phase that you get to be 100% single and selfish, and nobody can judge you for it. Singleness is the only phase in all of the love phases where if you are selfish, nobody judges you, nobody criticizes you. You can post all the things about I'm doing things with my own time, and nobody judges you because you're single, and that's great. But remember that when you enter the next phase, the dating phase, that you have practiced being selfish. You have practiced owning the monopoly on your time, your energy, your thoughts, And that selfishness, you so slowly have to break away. And this is why I say you have to date, because you have to practice not being so selfish. You have to literally practice the art of giving. You have, because you haven't had to. Your schedule was yours. Your time was yours. Your energy was yours. You being right and you feeling like you're right was yours, because that was your right, and you didn't have to bounce that off anybody. You could sit in your house by yourself and be right by yourself. But but when you're dating, you now have another person that you're bouncing. They may tell you you're wrong when you thought you were wrong. And in a, like you said, in a marriage, that is the ultimate form of commitment, where you are now, like, you should be good at being selfless. But you don't just get there overnight. And that's why I don't like really short engagement periods, because I feel like people need time to date and practice being selfless. And to short answer your question, it is imperative that you allow yourself the opportunity to become selfless through the engagement of dating people. It's not about saying, oh, if I don't date the right person the first time, that something's wrong. It is saying that I would rather date 10 horrible people to learn about myself, about what I love and what I don't love, than to date one person who was right for me. But because I didn't date those 10 people, I was wrong for them.
You screwed it up. Which I hate to say that.
Right, actually,
Go ahead, Ricardo.
no, that's because we're getting at the hour. So that's a good place to shift. So to those individuals, because now we're seeing a divorce rate go up.
Yes.
So now we're looking at the opposite side of the spectrum. So for those individuals who have now found themselves in a space where again, staying in the confines about what we're talking about, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an executive. I'm not used to being home and spending this much time with my significant other. You know, we haven't spent this much time together in eons. And now we really realize we've become two different people. So what advice would you give to those individuals who are now having to spend time alone? You know, you have the kids, you actually living the family life you envisioned but never walked out. And now that you're having to walk it out and it looks completely different than the layout of your life has been, what do you do?
Oh, man, there's so many people that are working from home that have never had to work from home on this level. Like, they still had to go into the office. They're used to being on phone calls, and some people are just home, like they're off. So with that reality, with not having to go out, there's a few things that I've been recommending when I have this conversation to people. Number one, I would recommend getting you a magic hat. And I say that by saying, get you a hat that when you wear it, your partner knows. It could be a partner, a roommate, anybody. They know to treat you like you're invisible. Yes, because you need boundaries. You need boundaries. And you don't need to argue about the personal time you need. You don't need to have the sensitive conversation, oh, you're making me feel bad because you're telling me to get away and that you need your personal time. By wearing the hat, you have a nonverbal cue that you need some personal time, and it's not to offend. It's just to say, I need me time. And so the magic hat, the invisible hat says, thank you, leave me alone. And that's okay, because we all need that personal space. It's space that you would have gotten if you went to the office. Another thing I recommend is doing the I'm going to work, but work from home dance. And that dance is this: go in the kitchen, get you lunch prepared, go ahead and get dressed, walk out of your apartment, walk out of your house, walk around the block, walk around the yard if you have to, and then come back in, and then shift your whole mentality and sit in a space that has been quarantined for you. And I like to use the word quarantine because that's where we are. Quarantine for you, that is daddy or mommy's space or a partner's space. And once you're in that space, that is your space. And now you're at work. Okay? So what that does is when your partner sees you going through those motions, they know, all right, babe, and you kiss them goodbye, because the goodbye says, I am leaving. I'm not here anymore. I'm in the other room, but I'm not here. I'm in the living room, but I'm not here. All right? And you have a small space, you got to go in the bathroom. But whatever it is, you find that space and you do that. Another one I like to use is the box, the creative box. And that box is the complaint box. And this is your opportunity for all those times, because you're under such close quarters that you nag each other, you get on each other's nerves, and you understand that these aren't things that you would normally do or say. You create a box that you only check once a week. And this box is your time to write out your long Dear John letter, and you put it in there, and you tell them about all the times they didn't do the dishes. You tell them all the times that they said something that was sideways. You tell them all the times that they got on your nerves. And what you do with that box is you check it that one time a week. These are things that can wait, by the way. You tell them, you pull it out, and you read only the things out loud that actually still matter. If it no longer matters, you don't read it. And what that shows you there are some things that we feel in a moment that are only because they're momentary. And they really don't have real weight in our relationship. So that is amazing. Last thing I would offer is create you a ticket. That's right. You each get a daily ticket that is a get out of argument card. That ticket allows you one pass, that when you say something, flip it. That when you forget to do something, you act stupid, you have that momentary loss of sanity, that you get to use it, turn it in and be like, all right, here's my one for the day. Forgive me, let's not.
Wait, is it one for the whole marriage? Well, this be one for the whole marriage.
See, that's my female clients. They be like, no, you get one a marriage. No, it's one a day, because you're getting more time together. Normally, you would only have like 5 to 6 waking hours together. But now you have 12 to sometimes 16, depending on how your sleep habits are, hours of waking time together. So that one pass a day is valid, because you will irritate each other, you will say things, and unless your relationship is that mature, that you've overcome a lot of those petty nuances, it's important to have that so you don't make minor things major.
That's a really good point.
Wow. I would. Simone, did you get all that? Because I don't have that.
I did. I definitely did.
That is not applied to me.
It may apply, because petty stuff can become big stuff in a lot of ways. It can become a big stuff, but at the same time, you know, some people never want to talk about it. I'm not gonna say who. Some people never want to talk. They always want to move on.
You're not about to throw P under the bus.
And
so, you're not going to throw P under the bus.
And so I always want to talk, and I'm always ready to go. And but that makes a brilliant amount of sense, especially because, again, it is little, and 9 times out of 10, especially the way my memory works, and people can take advantage of this. I'm not gonna say who. I forget. I forget very easily. I always forget, and I hate it, because then when I swear this was so important, and I swear you did something really disrespectful, but I can't remember what it was. And so, but it's valid to think about, okay, is this worth bringing up in this moment? If I could forget about it, then is it really worth bringing up in this moment?
Yes.
All right, so I'd like to leave, because we're approaching our ending hour, even though this is a heck of a lot more insightful than I want to be honest about, because you know how I feel about love. So I like to leave the listeners or the viewers with a top 3, because that people tend to remember those things. So what would be the top 3 things you would say to the audience we've really been speaking to today, entrepreneurs, executives, people who are always on the go as it pertains to coming out of COVID with a new mindset to make space, make room for love? What would be the top 3 things you would tell them to start that process and get it going? Absolutely. Number 1, I would say embrace your stuff. And I would use a different word in coaching, but embrace your stuff. The reality is that I had somebody tell me the other day, they were like, I just don't deal with hurt well. And I said, well, have you ever stubbed your toe? And they were like, well, just the other day. And I said, well, did you quit yourself because you hurt yourself? No. You got to deal with yourself. You got to deal with the reality that sometimes you're hypocritical. Sometimes you give yourself more slack than you give other people. Sometimes you forgive yourself a little easier than you do other people. Sometimes you allow yourself the benefit of the doubt
easier than you would give to somebody else. So deal with yourself. That's the reality, especially when you're in leadership positions and you're normally in control and you're used to telling people to do better and get it done faster, and you're pushing and driving people. Remember, your mate is not your employee. So you have to treat people in that way where you want to be treated. You have to give them equality. Now, on a boss to staff level, it's not equality. So remember, don't treat them like staff. Deal with your stuff. That would be number one. Number two, I would say also be forgiving. Now that's huge on a lot of levels, because forgiving means if they forget to reach back out as fast as you want, that is forgiveness. For you still engaging them, address it, but don't allow it to permeate. Offer yourself the ability to forget. Sometimes we don't like to say this. They hurt me, and I don't want to forgive them. But the reality is that what the Bible says for those who are Christians, it actually says in multiple religions that you have to forgive people. You forgive people 7 times or 70 times. So you got to forgive and forgive and forgive. And you forgive them to the point where you just don't want to deal with them anymore. And that is the reality. You have to forgive them like you would forgive yourself, to the point where you just don't want to deal with them anymore. Either you will let them go or you will forgive them. Period. It has to be that cut and dry. Last thing, open yourself. I can't say this enough. You are closed because you have to be. You are closed in a contract. A contract is a closed thing. It's an agreement. It is a closed thing. Dating is not an agreement. Okay? It's not an agreement. It is two people deciding. It is this. Marriage is an agreement. Okay? So when you get married, that's a whole different point. You've agreed to something. You have finally gotten to the point where you've gone through this enough. We decided on this. But you got to deal with the craziness of dating. Like, dating is a dance, and you're figuring out the steps. And in that, you have to give yourself the openness, the vulnerability, the freedom to express failure. Like, you have to be okay with failing on your side and them failing on their side, and figuring it out, and still being human and still being imperfect, and figuring out how that still comes to something beautiful. You got to be like Beyonce and accept flaws and all. Like, you have to realize that there is beauty in a flawed situation, that there is beauty in imperfection. I have a scar right here I love to talk about, because that is a lesson that I learned. And in that, it's beautiful to me. It looks crazy. It looks like an imperfection, but really, it's a beautiful reminder to me to live better and to be higher thinking. So if you do those three things, I promise you, you allow yourself to be open to receiving the love that you deserve. You really do deserve it. And if you keep that in mind, you just might find it.
Okay. All right. So tell everybody how to get in touch with you, and tell us about any products or things that you might want to talk about in our last couple of minutes.
Thank you again for this time, Ricardo, Simone. It's been a pleasure to talk to both of you. I'm easy to find. I actually love to be found. I feel like if you can find me, you can find love, because I do push love.
Okay, Cupid. Okay, Cupid.
I mean, it's true. If you can find me, you can definitely find love. So find me at byronjamal.com. That's the premier place to find me. It links to everything. But you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, all at Byron Jamal. And you would definitely want to go to my new course. It's at byronjamal.com under courses tab. And it's about finding better love at first swipe, finding love faster and better. And you can get my new book coming up. I love this book. It is Love Successfully: Finding Love, Navigating Love in the Modern Love Journey. So all of that's easy to find. I'm all about love, and I do believe you are worth the love you seek. So look for me, and you'll find it.
I feel like I've been talking to Cupid like the last hour. It's like the weirdest thing. Like, you just don't have like a little bow and arrow and wearing a diaper. Like, I feel like I've been talking to Cupid the last hour.
But it's very wise words. Very wise words.
Any final thoughts, Simone?
No, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So if you want to support, please go to reformalliance.com. We need all the help that we can get, all the voices that we can get, trying to protect vulnerable people from this pandemic right now, while we're all focused on our mental and our emotional strength as folks that are fighting for their physical strength. So that's a place where you can get involved in that fight.
Yes.
All right. So another special thanks, because I have to bow down when stuff is just not my subject matter. Love is just not my subject matter. So we definitely want to send a great, great thank you out to this amazing, I call him Cupid now, amazing Cupid that was with us today, Mr. Byron Jamal. I so appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show. Another thank you to your publicist, Leslie Tops, for setting this all up. Thank you to her. And, you know, I don't think there's anything else to say. Entrepreneurs, executives, we will find love. We got the tools that we need today. We will find love. I'm not putting a time limit on that, so don't hold me to it, but we will find love. All right, so until the next time, we will see you guys on the Leadership Blend, same time, same place with your host, Ricardo D. Wright.